The Great Pyramid of Giza points toward true north with astonishing precision. That same exact alignment appears in temples built across oceans and centuries. This is not a coincidence. It is the beginning of a global blueprint, a hidden code guiding the placement of the world's most ancient monuments. By the end of our journey, you will see these stone wonders not as separate marvels, but as points on a single, planet-spanning map. How could cultures with no known contact share such complex astronomical knowledge? What forgotten wisdom connects a pyramid in Egypt to a temple in Cambodia? This story is written in stone and stars, and it challenges everything we think we know about our past. What does it suggest about our ancestors' true connection to the cosmos? That precise alignment at Giza is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. To see the full picture, we need to understand the concept of a global blueprint. This is the idea that ancient cultures, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, were following a shared set of rules for placing their most sacred structures. It suggests a network of sites intentionally linked to the stars, to the Earth itself, and even to each other across impossible distances. Think of it not as random acts of construction, but as a coordinated design on a planetary scale. We witness this principle in action at Stonehenge, where the massive stones frame the rising sun on the summer solstice. We see it in the Nazca Desert, where enormous lines etched into the ground correspond with star patterns in the night sky. And we see it, of course, in the Great Pyramid, a structure so perfectly oriented it rivals our modern instruments. When we view these sites as separate achievements, they are marvelous. But when we see them as points on a single, interconnected map, they become something else entirely. They become fragments of a unified system of knowledge. This points to a profound possibility. Perhaps this wisdom came from a common, advanced source now lost to time. Or maybe it was a universal understanding, a deep, intuitive connection to the cosmos that our ancestors shared. The existence of this pattern challenges our entire timeline of human history, forcing us to reconsider the technological and spiritual heights our forebears may have reached. It sets the stage for a breathtaking investigation into the specific lines, both on the ground and in the heavens, that weave our world into a single, ancient design. The sky itself was their primary architect. Across continents, the same celestial bodies dictated the placement of sacred stone. This principle, celestial synchronization, reveals a world where architecture was not just built on the earth, but actively conversing with the heavens. The sun's annual journey provided the most reliable rhythm. Its position at the solstices and equinoxes became moments of profound significance, etched permanently into the design of monuments. In Ireland, the massive passage tomb of Newgrange is engineered so that on the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, a single shaft of sunlight pierces the inner darkness to illuminate the central chamber. This event transforms a mound of earth and stone into a precise timekeeping device, marking the sun's promised return. Thousands of miles away, high in the Andes Mountains, the Incan city of Machu Picchu showcases a similar mastery. In Teotihuacan, the so-called hitching post of the sun, and other carefully shaped stones interact with the sun's light during these pivotal solar dates, anchoring the city to the cosmic cycle. This was more than mere calendar making, it was a sacred act. It wove the very fabric of time and the presence of divine forces directly into the physical landscape, making the spiritual tangible. But the builders looked beyond the sun to the fixed patterns of the stars. The three bright stars of Orion's belt seem to have held a special fascination. The layout of the three main pyramids at Giza presents a compelling earthly reflection of this celestial arrangement. This mirroring of the heavens on the ground is a concept found in many traditions, often described as above, so below. It suggests a deep-seated human desire to create a sacred geography, a world mountain where the order of the cosmos is replicated in our own realm. By decoding these alignments, we are not just studying ancient engineering. We are learning to read the first chapter of a sophisticated, universal language, one written not in words but in the relationship between stone and star. If the sky provided the original map, then what lines were our ancestors following on the Earth itself? That same cosmic knowledge had a terrestrial twin, a profound understanding of the Earth's own form. Beyond the stars, these ancient builders displayed a startling grasp of geodetics, the science of measuring and mapping our planet. They were not just looking up, they were precisely charting the ground beneath their feet. The evidence for this is etched into the very placement of their greatest works. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a prime example. Its location is not arbitrary. It is positioned at the center of the Earth's landmass, the one point that balances all the continents. Even more remarkably, the pyramid's base perimeter, when divided by twice its height, yields a number incredibly close to the mathematical constant pi. This is not a simple coincidence of construction. It is a deliberate encoding of advanced mathematical and geographical understanding into stone. This geodetic awareness extends far beyond Egypt. Sacred sites across the globe appear to be positioned along specific latitudinal lines, as if placed on a hidden grid. Many are also found atop powerful geological features, areas often associated with hypothetical energy pathways known as ley lines. In ancient Mexico, the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacán is meticulously aligned with the peak of the Cerro Gordo mountain, anchoring the entire city to a dominant feature of the local landscape. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, the vast temple complex of Angkor Wat in Cambodia is laid out as a terrestrial mirror of the Draco constellation. This is not just about sighting a single star. It is about projecting a complex star pattern to scale onto the surface of the Earth itself. How could cultures separated by oceans and millennia achieve such feats of global positioning? The implication is staggering. It suggests a forgotten chapter in human history, where our ancestors possessed the ability to measure the planet with an accuracy that seems to belong to a much later age. If they could map the Earth with such precision, what other secrets of our world did they understand? These recurring shapes and proportions form a silent vocabulary, a language of forms spoken by cultures that supposedly never met. If celestial patterns were the timing and the Earth was the canvas, then sacred geometry was the universal syntax used to write the blueprint. This is the idea that specific geometric shapes and mathematical ratios carry deep symbolic power, echoing the fundamental patterns of the cosmos itself. The most famous of these is the golden ratio, a number approximately equal to 1.618, often represented by the Greek letter phi. This proportion is visually perceived as uniquely balanced and beautiful. We find it meticulously woven into the design of the Parthenon in Greece, governing the harmonious relationship between its columns and its form. Astoundingly, the same precise ratio is encoded into the very dimensions of the Great Pyramid at Giza. This is not a case of simple aesthetic preference. It suggests that builders across the world were tapping into the same underlying mathematical order, a code they believed was written into the fabric of nature, from the spiral of a seashell to the arrangement of petals on a flower. This shared language extends to more complex symbols. The mandala, an intricate geometric design representing the universe, is central to Hindu and Buddhist temple architecture, guiding meditation and symbolizing cosmic order. Yet this same concept of a sacred circle divided into quarters appears thousands of miles away in the ancient Native American medicine wheels of North America. Both are cosmic maps rendered in stone and ritual, intended to connect the human realm with the divine. Circles, squares, spirals, and specific ratios were not just decorative choices. They were seen as the essential building blocks of creation. The persistent use of this visual language points toward something profound, a shared metaphysical understanding that transcended geographical boundaries. It was a common vision of how the universe is structured, a vision they physically manifested in their monuments to create a perfect harmony between their sacred spaces and the eternal principles they revered. This geometric code was the final piece that tied the heavens to the earth, creating places of immense power and significance. But who were the architects of this planet-spanning design? The Giza Plateau stands as a silent testament to this global design, a masterpiece of celestial and terrestrial harmony. Its three great pyramids do not merely dominate the desert skyline. They engage in a deliberate, silent conversation with the constellation of Orion. The specific stars of Orion's belt are mirrored below with astonishing fidelity. The two brighter stars are matched by the two larger pyramids, while the third, slightly offset and dimmer star, finds its counterpart in the smaller Menkora pyramid. This is more than a vague resemblance. It is a scaled map of the heavens rendered in millions of tons of stone, but the celestial mirroring does not end there. Gazing across the plateau, the majestic Sphinx with its leonine body may itself be a terrestrial representation of the constellation Leo, guarding its celestial counterpart as it rises in the eastern sky. The Nile River, flowing steadily to the east, could then be seen as the earthly counterpart to the great, starry river of the Milky Way. This transforms the entire Giza complex from a collection of tombs into a unified, three-dimensional model of the night sky. The precision required to execute this vision is almost beyond comprehension. Each side of the Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with an error of only 3/60ths of a single degree, an accuracy that rivals modern surveying techniques. This was not achieved by chance. It points to a profound geodetic understanding, a knowledge of the Earth's shape and orientation so advanced it allowed these architects to anchor their cosmic map to the planet itself with perfect alignment. This is the global blueprint in its most concentrated and awe-inspiring form, a multi-layered code written in geometry, astronomy, and stone. Cross the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, and you will find the mystery replicated in the highlands of Mexico. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacán rises from the ancient city with a purpose that echoes across continents. Its western face is perfectly aligned to frame the setting sun on key dates, a solar event marked with the same reverence as at Giza or Stonehenge. But the celestial connection is only the beginning. The entire metropolis, the so-called City of the Gods, is laid out on a rigid grid plan, one that is deliberately offset by 15.5 degrees from true north. This specific, non-cardinal orientation is not unique to Teotihuacan. It is a signature found at other major centers like Monte Albán, suggesting a shared and perhaps standardized system of surveying. The parallels only deepen from there. Both the Egyptian and Mesoamerican civilizations, separated by an ocean and thousands of years, chose the stepped pyramid as their ultimate architectural form. Both built sophisticated observatories to track the cycles of Venus and other planets. Both designed their urban centers with a level of geometric planning that implies a common spiritual ideology, a shared vision of how a sacred city should mirror cosmic order. This goes far beyond coincidence. It points toward a foundational knowledge base that appears to have been applied in two different corners of the world. Some researchers have proposed an even more direct link, a geodetic correlation. They note that if you follow the longitudinal line that passes directly through the apex of the Great Pyramid of Giza, it continues across the globe to bisect the apex of the so-called Bermuda Triangle and, remarkably, passes directly through the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. While such long-distance alignments remain a topic of debate, their very proposal highlights a compelling question. How do we explain these profound similarities in form, function, and alignment? The evidence suggests that either this complex understanding of astronomy and geodetics arose independently in complete isolation, a phenomenon that strains belief, or it hints at a forgotten thread of connection, a shared source of wisdom that guided the hands of pyramid builders on both sides of the world. This invisible web of connection extends beyond the stars and into the very soil. The concept of ley lines proposes that our planet is crisscrossed by straight alignments of spiritual or energetic power, with ancient monuments acting as nodes where this force concentrates. Early in the 1920s, an Englishman named Alfred Watkins had a sudden vision of the British landscape not as a patchwork of fields and towns, but as a network of straight tracks connecting hilltops, old churches, and ancient stones. He called these pathways ley lines, suggesting they were remnants of ancient trade routes or ceremonial ways. The idea, however, quickly transcended its practical origins. Enthusiasts began to see these lines not just as old roads, but as conduits of a subtle earth energy, a life force that our ancestors could perceive and harness. A classic example in England is the St. Michael Line, a powerful alignment that runs across the country, connecting sites dedicated to the Archangel Michael, like St. Michael's Mount, with deeply ancient places like Glastonbury Tor and the massive stone circle at Avebury. This is not an isolated phenomenon. In the high deserts of Peru, researchers have drawn straight lines connecting the mysterious Nazca geoglyphs with distant mountain peaks and ancient ceremonial centers. In Cambodia, the sprawling temples of the Angkor complex, including the magnificent Angkor Wat, appear to be positioned along specific linear arrangements. The prevailing view in archaeology is that these alignments are often coincidental, the result of practical path-making or simply the high probability of connecting any set of random points on a map over a large enough area. Yet the sheer persistence of the pattern, emerging independently across continents, invites a deeper question. Could it be that our ancestors were attuned to a dimension of the Earth that we have largely forgotten? Perhaps they chose these specific locations not just for their visibility or defensibility, but because they felt a tangible energy there, a vitality they sought to amplify by building their most sacred structures directly upon it. This transforms the global blueprint from a map of astronomical observation into a potential diagram of the planet's own hidden pulse. If these sites were indeed linked by lines of force, then the next logical question is perhaps the most profound of all. Who or what first taught humanity to read this energetic map? The Earth itself holds a slow, rhythmic dance that most of us never perceive. Our planet spins like a top that is slightly off balance, causing its axis to trace a slow circle in the sky over a cycle of approximately 26,000 years. This phenomenon, known as precession, gradually shifts our view of the constellations. The North Star, for instance, was not always Polaris, and in a few thousand years it will not be again. This celestial clock ticks with an almost unimaginable slowness, its full cycle spanning hundreds of human generations. Yet the architects of our most ancient monuments appear to have not only known about this grand cycle, but to have deliberately encoded its phases into their stone calendars. The evidence for this is written in alignments that seem deliberately out of sync with their own time. Consider the Great Sphinx of Giza, its lion body gazing resolutely eastward. Its gaze aligns perfectly with the constellation Leo, but not as it appears in our modern night sky. That alignment was precise around the year 10,500 BC, an era often referred to by researchers as the Age of Leo. This creates a staggering implication. It suggests the builders were not merely marking the sky they saw, but were referencing a sky from a vastly earlier epoch, or perhaps projecting forward to a future one. Their monuments were not just for the present, they were anchors placed along a cosmic timeline spanning millennia. How could a civilization plan with such an immense scope? This points to a continuity of knowledge, a sacred science passed down through ages with the specific intent of creating eternal markers. The pyramids, Stonehenge, and other megalithic sites may thus be far more than tombs or temples. They could be chapters in a single planet-wide text, each structure a fixed point in a narrative that unfolds over 26,000 years. They are not just aligned to the stars of their day, but to the great turning wheel of the ages itself. This transforms our understanding of their purpose, from serving a single culture to communicating across deep time. What message were they trying to send to a future they would never see? This central enigma forces us to confront a profound question. How could such an intricate blueprint for sacred architecture appear simultaneously across the globe, among peoples separated by impassable oceans and unrecorded millennia? The conventional narrative of isolated cultural development begins to fray under the weight of these precise similarities. If these cultures truly had no contact, we are left with the staggering proposition that multiple societies independently invented not just the same complex astronomical alignments, but the same sophisticated geodetic principles and the same sacred geometric codes. The odds of such parallel inventions seem astronomically low, pointing toward some form of shared influence. This leads us into the heart of the first great mystery, the question of knowledge transfer. One compelling theory looks to a time before recorded history, suggesting the existence of a sophisticated source civilization, perhaps flourishing during the last ice age. According to this view, a global cataclysm such as a rapid rise in sea levels scattered the survivors of this advanced culture. These refugees, carrying the seeds of a profound scientific and spiritual tradition, would have traveled to different parts of the world, establishing new societies and imparting their foundational knowledge to the local populations. This could explain why the same core principles of cosmic order appear in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and Southeast Asia, each adapted to local materials and customs but rooted in a common origin. A second, more tangible theory proposes extensive transoceanic voyages long before the age of Columbus or the Vikings. We know the Phoenicians were master navigators of the ancient Mediterranean. Could their journeys, or those of other unknown seafaring peoples, have stretched across the Atlantic or Pacific? Perhaps Polynesian voyagers, with their incredible star-based navigation skills, connected distant lands, sharing not just goods but ideas. This theory suggests a web of ancient trade and cultural exchange that has been erased by time, a network that allowed for the slow, deliberate transfer of a complex architectural science. Then there is a third, more metaphysical possibility. What if this knowledge was not transferred from one place to another at all? What if it was independently received by different cultures? This theory posits that humanity, at a certain stage of spiritual development, was more deeply attuned to the fundamental frequencies of the universe. Through deep meditation, ritual, or a state of consciousness we have since lost, diverse peoples tapped into a collective unconscious or a universal field of wisdom. They were not copying a blueprint, but each reading from the same cosmic source text, each arriving at the same conclusions about how to build structures that resonate with the harmony of the cosmos. Each of these theories challenges our understanding of history in its own way. One points to a forgotten golden age, another to forgotten explorers, and a third to a forgotten human capacity. Yet they all converge on a single, transformative idea that our ancient ancestors were participants in a shared, planet-wide project, the meaning of which we are only beginning to decipher. The purpose behind this planetary network may be the greatest puzzle of all. Were these monuments simply massive calendars designed to track the seasons for planting and harvest? That practical function certainly existed. The solar alignments at places like Newgrange and Machu Picchu marked the turning of the year with unerring accuracy, guiding agricultural cycles and community rituals tied to fertility and renewal. Yet this explanation feels insufficient for the sheer scale and precision of the undertaking. Why encode the precession of the equinoxes, a cycle spanning 26,000 years, if your only concern was next year's harvest? The alignment seems to serve a deeper, more cosmic notion of rebirth, connecting human rituals to the vast, cyclical death and regeneration of the universe itself. This points toward a spiritual technology where the monuments acted as conduits. Many researchers suggest these sites were deliberately placed at powerful geological junctures, locations where the Earth's own energy was thought to be most concentrated. The idea is that these structures, through their sacred geometry and precise placement, could amplify this subtle force. In this view, a pyramid or a stone circle was less a building and more like a spiritual battery, designed to collect and focus a natural power. What was this energy used for? Perhaps it was meant to facilitate communication with the divine, to elevate human consciousness, or to heal the land and its people. The global network, then, might be imagined as a kind of acupuncture for the planet, with each major site acting as a needle inserted into a specific meridian to balance the flow of vitality and maintain harmony between humanity, the Earth, and the cosmos. This was likely not a single purpose, but a seamless fusion of the practical and the profound. The same structure that told time also served as a temple for ritual, a university for astronomical study, and a powerhouse for spiritual practice. Our modern world tends to separate science from spirituality, but for these builders, they were one and the same. The network was their masterpiece, a physical manifestation of their understanding that to live in harmony with the cosmos, you must first build its reflection here on Earth. The staggering scale of these monuments forces a single, profound question: who truly held the master plan? Traditional archaeology rightly credits the known civilizations, the Egyptians with their pyramids, the Maya with their observatories, the Inca with their mountaintop cities. They were the hands that quarried the stone and raised the walls. Yet the global blueprint, this shared language of alignment and geometry, hints at a deeper layer, a guiding intelligence operating behind the scenes. This suggests the existence of a specialized class, a caste of priest-astronomer engineers who served as the guardians of a sacred science. These individuals would have possessed a unified knowledge system where the movement of a star was as important as the angle of a wall, where a mathematical ratio held spiritual significance. Their understanding of the Earth's size and orientation, their ability to track celestial cycles spanning thousands of years, seems to rival, and in some cases surpass, what we would expect from the technology of their era. This discrepancy is the core of the mystery. Were these brilliant builders the inheritors of a much older tradition? Could their knowledge have been passed down from a sophisticated precursor culture, a civilization lost to the great upheavals of prehistory, whose achievements now lie beneath the ocean or buried under centuries of silt? This theory proposes that our recorded history is merely an echo, a rebuilding phase after a forgotten golden age. Another possibility, often explored in popular culture, looks to the stars more literally. The ancient astronaut theory suggests that this advanced knowledge was a gift provided by external visitors who guided humanity's first steps into monumental architecture. While this idea captures the imagination, it also invites us to reconsider human potential itself. Perhaps the answer is not found in looking outward for saviors, but in looking inward and re-evaluating the immense capabilities of these ancient societies. What if we have chronically underestimated the power of sustained generational observation? A culture that watches the sky for centuries, that records the patterns of nature with unwavering dedication, can accumulate a profound and practical wisdom. Their development of mathematics and engineering, divorced from our modern reliance on machinery, may have been a different but no less potent path to technological mastery. They may have understood principles of resonance, energy, and geomancy that our science is only now beginning to grasp. The identity of the planners remains one of history's most tantalizing secrets, not because the evidence is absent, but because it is written in a language we are still learning to read, a language of stone, sky, and earth. This mathematical code runs even deeper than the alignments themselves. The Great Pyramid of Giza is a masterpiece of encoded information, its very shape a silent repository of universal constants. The ratio of its perimeter to its height yields a figure that is essentially twice the value of pi, the fundamental number that defines the relationship between a circle's circumference and its diameter. This is not an architectural accident. It is a deliberate act of embedding a cornerstone of geometry into a mountain of stone. The same structure also integrates the golden ratio, a proportion of approximately 1.618 that appears throughout nature, from the spiral of a nautilus shell to the branching of trees. This number, celebrated for its inherent balance and beauty, is meticulously woven into the pyramid's dimensions. The presence of these two distinct mathematical truths in a single building points to a level of abstract scientific thought that we rarely attribute to the ancient world. It suggests the builders were not just engineers, but natural philosophers who saw mathematics as the hidden framework of reality. Far across the ocean, the builders of Teotihuacan in Mexico seem to share this same profound insight. The entire city was laid out using a standardized unit of measurement now called the Teotihuacan unit. Intriguingly, when this unit is multiplied and analyzed, it appears to relate directly to the polar radius of the Earth itself. This implies that the architects were not merely building a city, they were creating a scale model of planetary proportions, a terrestrial echo of their global understanding. This pattern of mathematical embedding continues at Stonehenge. The arrangement of the massive sarsen stones, particularly the famous trilithons, forms precise Pythagorean triangles. These are the same 3, 4, 5 right triangles that would later form the bedrock of Greek geometry. The appearance of this sophisticated spatial relationship in a monument built thousands of years before Pythagoras was born is a powerful clue. It tells us that this knowledge of fundamental geometric principles was not a later invention, but a much older, widely distributed discovery. The chance that these three different cultures, separated by vast distances and time, would all independently choose to immortalize the same complex mathematical constants in their most sacred monuments is vanishingly small. This was not a series of coincidences. It was a conscious, coordinated effort to use architecture as a permanent record of cosmic law. They were grounding the abstract principles of the universe into tangible, enduring form. A pyramid or a stone circle thus became more than a temple or a calendar. It became a physical theorem, a statement written in stone declaring that the same rules that govern the heavens also govern the earth, and that humanity can understand and embody those rules. This leads us to the final and perhaps most personal dimension of the mystery, the human element behind this planet-spanning project. The stones themselves were meant to sing. Beyond the silent alignment with stars and the precise lines of geometry, these ancient monuments hold a hidden acoustic dimension, a mastery of sound that suggests the blueprint was not just seen but heard and felt. Deep within the hypogeum of Malta, a labyrinthine complex carved from solid limestone, certain chambers resonate at a specific, powerful frequency. This sonic vibration aligns with the natural rhythm of human brainwaves, capable of inducing states of deep meditation or heightened awareness. It was not an accidental property of the rock. It was an engineered environment where architecture and acoustics merged to directly influence human consciousness. Thousands of miles across the Atlantic, the Grand Mayan Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itzá demonstrates a similar acoustic genius. A simple hand clap at the base of its massive staircase is transformed, returning as a perfect echo that mirrors the chirping cry of the sacred Quetzal bird. This was not a random echo, it was a deliberate sonic signature connecting the ritual space directly to a revered creature of the spiritual world. Even the long, narrow passage into Ireland's Newgrange tomb acts as a sound channel, amplifying and focusing specific frequencies as they travel toward the inner chamber. This shared focus on acoustic precision points to a startling conclusion. The alignment of these sites was not merely visual or geographical, it was profoundly auditory. They were designed as colossal resonators. Imagine the effect during a ceremony with rhythmic chanting or the playing of instruments. The very stones of the monument would have amplified and modulated those sounds, creating an immersive, multi-sensory experience. This sonic layer implies our ancestors possessed a holistic understanding of energy, one that seamlessly wove together light, sound, and form. They understood that a sacred space was not complete unless it could also speak, and that the vibrations moving through the air were as vital to their rituals as the stones beneath their feet. Water, the source of all life, may have been the very bloodstream of this ancient network. From the Nile's steady flow past the Giza plateau to the sacred springs encircling Machu Picchu, a profound connection to aquatic sources echoes across continents. The massive moai statues of Easter Island, for instance, were deliberately positioned to face inland toward vital freshwater springs, a placement that served the practical needs of their builders but also hints at a deeper, symbolic relationship. Esoteric traditions from many cultures describe water not just as a physical substance, but as a living conductor of the Earth's own vitality, a life force sometimes called Kai or Prana. In this light, the strategic placement of monuments near powerful rivers, lakes, or underground aquifers begins to look less like simple resource management and more like a deliberate act of spiritual engineering. The builders may have understood that flowing water could amplify or channel the subtle energies they sought to harness, turning a sacred site into a focal point of planetary vitality. This idea extends even to the unseen world beneath our feet. Some researchers propose that the mysterious straight tracks known as ley lines might actually mirror the paths of underground watercourses. If true, this suggests these ancient surveyors possessed an uncanny ability to detect and map subterranean flows, integrating a sophisticated understanding of hydrology into their cosmic blueprint. They were not just aligning stones with stars, but potentially weaving the very flow of terrestrial water into their grand design, creating a harmonious resonance between the Earth's hidden veins and the celestial patterns above. This transforms our view of these places from silent stone sentinels into dynamic, living systems, where the element most essential to life was also central to their function. The stones did not just mirror the stars above, they gave form to the beasts of myth and earth below. This practice of creating terrestrial constellations reveals another layer of the global blueprint, where entire landscapes were sculpted into colossal animal effigies. The Great Sphinx of Giza is the most iconic example, its leonine body fused with a human head eternally guarding the plateau. Its form is not arbitrary. Many researchers propose it was carved to embody the constellation Leo, creating a permanent, earthly anchor for a celestial power. Far across the world, in the arid plains of Peru, the Nazca culture etched a different kind of gallery into the desert floor. Here, a massive spider, a long-tailed monkey, and a delicate hummingbird were drawn on a scale so vast they can only be fully comprehended from the sky. These were not mere drawings, they were geoglyphs of profound ritual significance, their lines often aligned with solstice sunrises or sacred mountain peaks. In the jungles of Cambodia, some analyses suggest the sprawling layout of the Angkor Wat temple complex itself forms the shape of a great dragon, a mythical protector woven into the very footprint of the city. The creation of these giant effigies demanded a breathtaking coordination of labor and vision, all for symbols that, from ground level, remained largely invisible. So what was their true purpose? They likely functioned as powerful territorial markers, declaring a sacred connection between a people and their land. They served as tribal totems representing clan identities and mythological narratives. On an even grander scale, they may have been representations of zodiacal ages, stone calendars marking the slow precessional shift of the celestial sphere. Each animal, whether lion, spider, or dragon, was a key in a symbolic language, linking the earthly realm directly to cosmic and mythological stories. This transforms the ancient landscape into a vast, open-air gallery, where the very ground you walk on is part of a sacred map, a final, breathtaking expression of a world where heaven and earth were one. This concept of a planetary network built to last for ages leads us to a breathtaking possibility. These structures may have been designed as messages in a bottle, sealed not for decades but for millennia. The very stones seem to be speaking directly to us across the vast expanse of time. This is the time capsule phenomenon, where ancient architects embedded knowledge intended for a future they would never see. The most compelling evidence lies in alignments that were deliberately out of sync with their own era. The Great Sphinx, for instance, gazes directly at the constellation Leo, but with a precision that was exact not in the age of the pharaohs, but in the deep past around 10,500 BC. Why would its builders encode a celestial event from an epoch thousands of years before their own civilization? It suggests a profound intention to mark a specific point in the grand cosmic cycle, a point they knew would come around again. This was not a calendar for the present, it was a clock set for a distant future. The fascination with the Maya calendar's focus on the year 2012 offers a more recent example of this same impulse capturing the modern imagination. It demonstrated how an ancient culture could project its understanding of cosmic cycles far into a future they could never physically inhabit. This transforms our view of these monuments. They are no longer static tombs or silent temples. They become dynamic, communicative structures, actively reaching across time. They were a legacy of knowledge, carefully preserved against the erosion of centuries. Perhaps they contained a warning about cyclical earthly changes, or a beacon to guide a future humanity toward a new level of understanding. What crucial piece of information did they feel was so important that it had to be set in stone, waiting patiently for us to finally look up and understand? Our own time now holds the keys to unlocking theirs. A quiet revolution is underway as modern science turns its most powerful tools toward these ancient riddles. High above the planet, satellites capture images that reveal hidden geometries on a scale once invisible to the human eye. We can now see how a straight line drawn from a pyramid in Egypt might extend across the globe to intersect with a temple in Cambodia, testing the grand alignments proposed by researchers for decades. This is not speculation from a dusty map, it is data from orbit. On the ground, a technology called LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging, is performing a kind of technological magic. By firing laser pulses from an aircraft, it can strip away the dense canopy of a rainforest to reveal the ghostly outlines of entire cities hidden below. Lost roads, plazas, and even smaller monuments are coming into view for the first time in centuries, showing us that what we thought were isolated sites were often part of a vast, interconnected network. These discoveries are redrawing our maps of the ancient world, proving it was far more complex and connected than we ever knew. Meanwhile, archaeoastronomers use advanced software to turn back the cosmic clock. They can reconstruct the exact night sky as it appeared over the Sphinx 4,000 years ago, or model the sunlight that entered Newgrange on a winter solstice in the deep past. This digital time travel allows them to verify celestial alignments with mathematical certainty, separating poetic coincidence from deliberate, precise engineering. The very ground beneath these monuments is also giving up its secrets. Geophysicists use ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry, techniques that act like X-ray vision, to search for hidden chambers, buried waterways, or anomalous energy readings without ever lifting a shovel. While these sophisticated instruments have rightly debunked many fanciful ideas, they have also confirmed something profound. The precision achieved by these ancient builders was not just symbolic, it was mathematically exact, rivaling what we could achieve with modern instruments. Each confirmed alignment, each newly discovered connection, adds another layer of credibility to the breathtaking idea that a sophisticated, interconnected plan may indeed be written across the face of our world, waiting for us to finally learn how to read it. Yet every grand theory must face the cold light of critical analysis. Mainstream archaeology offers a powerful counter-narrative, one grounded in statistics and methodological rigor. Critics point to a fundamental human tendency called apophenia, the instinct to find meaningful patterns in random information. When you have thousands of ancient sites scattered across the planet, the laws of probability suggest that some will inevitably align by pure chance. The proposed ley lines connecting them, skeptics argue, are often subjective, drawn by connecting sites from vastly different time periods that could never have been part of a single plan. The timeline itself often falls apart under scrutiny. The precise carbon dating of a structure might place its construction centuries away from the celestial event it is supposed to mark, or from the other monuments it supposedly aligns with. Even the breathtaking mathematical constants found in the Great Pyramid have a more mundane explanation. The ratio approximating pi could have been a simple byproduct of the builder's chosen sect, a practical unit of slope used in construction, rather than a deliberate encoding of advanced knowledge. This skeptical perspective is not meant to dismiss the wonders of the ancient world, but to insist on a higher standard of proof. It demands peer-reviewed data, verifiable alignments, and a timeline that fits the archaeological record. A true understanding must withstand this rigorous scrutiny, separating compelling coincidence from genuine evidence of a lost global plan. A great cataclysm may have been the very engine of this shared knowledge. The ground beneath our feet holds clues to a dramatic turning point in prehistory, a period of immense planetary change around 12,000 years ago. This era, marking the end of the last ice age, saw glaciers retreating and sea levels rising at a rate that would have reshaped the world's coastlines. Some researchers propose that this was not a gentle transition, but a time of profound upheaval, potentially triggered by a cosmic event like a comet fragment striking the Earth. This is the core of the controversial Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. It suggests a global disaster of such magnitude that it could have erased a sophisticated society from the face of the planet. Imagine the survivors of such an event, scattered groups holding the shattered remnants of a once great civilization. They would have been the keepers of a precious cargo, not of gold but of knowledge. This theory posits that these survivors, these maritime refugees, traveled across the world, carrying with them the essential seeds of astronomy, geometry, and monumental engineering. They would have encountered emerging hunter-gatherer communities and imparted the foundational principles of the global blueprint. This would explain the otherwise baffling phenomenon of cultural Big Bang events, where societies like the ancient Egyptians or the Sumerians seem to appear almost fully formed, with a complete and sophisticated system of writing, mathematics, and architecture already in place. The same intricate understanding of celestial cycles and sacred geometry appears in the earliest layers of Mesoamerican cultures, as if it was a foundational gift received at their dawn. The great flood myths that are found in hundreds of cultures worldwide, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the stories of the Maya, could be the enduring cultural memory of this real, world-altering deluge. While mainstream archaeology rightly demands more concrete proof, often pointing to the lack of a definitive archaeological site for this progenitor culture, the narrative holds a powerful explanatory appeal. It offers a plausible thread connecting the sudden, simultaneous flowering of complex societies. It suggests that our recorded history is not the story of a slow ascent from primitiveness, but a story of rebirth, a phoenix-like resurgence from the ashes of a forgotten world. The true legacy of this lost civilization, then, may not be a sunken city we can excavate, but the very architectural code that was gifted to humanity's future, a code we are only now beginning to comprehend. The stones were more than architecture, they were a spiritual technology. For these ancient cultures, the universe was not a cold, empty void, but a living, conscious presence. The monuments they built were not passive observatories, but active interfaces designed to commune with this divine cosmos. Each alignment was a deliberate act of connection, a way to tether the earthly realm to the celestial one. This created what traditions across the world call an axis mundi, a world axis or a cosmic pillar. It was the central point where heaven and earth met, the place where communication between the human and the divine became possible. When the sun's rays pierced the inner chamber of Newgrange on the winter solstice, it was not just marking a date, it was a moment of infusion, a channel opened for the sun's life-giving power to flood into the land, ensuring its renewal. The Great Pyramid, in its perfect alignment, was not just a triumph of engineering, it was a stabilized conduit, a permanent antenna directing cosmic order downward. This profound purpose reveals that the astronomical precision and the mathematical codes were all in service of a single, unified goal: to maintain the harmony of the universe itself. In Egypt, this principle was known as Mat, the sacred order of truth and balance that held creation together. In India, it was Dharma, the cosmic law that sustains the world. The rituals performed at these sites were not mere superstition. They were seen as essential acts of maintenance, human efforts to uphold this cosmic balance. The placement of a temple, the orientation of a pyramid, the line of a lei, all were part of a planetary-scale project of spiritual stabilization. They believed that by building these sacred interfaces at powerful points on the Earth's body, they could harmonize the flow of energy, align human consciousness with divine will, and literally help keep the world in tune. This transforms our understanding of the global network from a map of intellectual achievement into a diagram of profound spiritual responsibility, a testament to a time when humanity saw its role as an active participant in the great, living cosmos. These shared stories form a worldwide library of the human imagination, A great deluge appears in the Epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia, in the Book of Genesis, and in the legends of the Maya. In each account, a cataclysm of water wipes the world clean, sparing only a chosen few who preserve the seeds of knowledge for a new beginning. The gods who bring civilization are another common thread. The Egyptian god Thoth brought writing and science. Across the ocean, the bearded figure of Quetzalcoatl did the same for the people of ancient Mexico, teaching them the calendar and the arts of architecture. These are not just similar ideas, they are nearly identical narratives playing out on different continents, as if each culture was remembering fragments of the same original event. The pyramid stands as the ultimate architectural symbol of this shared vision. In Egypt, it was a ramp for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the stars. In Cambodia, it was Mount Meru, the cosmic home of the gods. For the Maya, it was a sacred mountain connecting the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. This identical form, representing a point of contact between worlds, emerging independently across the globe, is one of history's most profound mysteries. Then there is the serpent, a symbol so universal it seems woven into our collective psyche. In Mesopotamia, it was the chaos monster Tiamat. In Hinduism, it is the cosmic serpent Shesha who supports the world. For the Maya, it was the feathered serpent, a bringer of knowledge and renewal. In each tradition, this creature embodies a fundamental, flowing energy, sometimes creative and sometimes destructive, but always representing a powerful, primal force of the cosmos. What does this mean? It suggests that our ancestors were not just sharing building techniques, but a complete worldview. They shared a common understanding of how the universe was born, how it could be threatened, and how humanity could actively participate in maintaining its sacred balance. This deep, symbolic language directly informed their architecture. The pyramid was not just a stable shape, it was a model of the primordial mound of creation. The alignment of a temple was not just an astronomical feat, it was the physical enactment of a story about connecting heaven and earth. These myths were the instruction manual for the global blueprint, and the monuments were the result. This invisible grid beneath our feet suggests a planet alive with its own subtle pulse. Moving beyond the simple lines on a map, some researchers propose a far more intricate system, a global energy matrix often called the Hartmann grid or the Curry net. Think of it not as lines but as a vast, invisible web enveloping the Earth, with certain points of intensified power where these energetic strands cross. It is at these potent nodes, according to this theory, that our ancestors chose to build their most sacred monuments. These locations were not selected for their scenic views alone, but for their perceived vitality, as places where the boundary between the earthly and the spiritual was believed to be thinnest. Visitors to these ancient sites, from the soaring cathedrals of Europe to the silent pyramids of Giza, often report a shared catalogue of experiences. They speak of a profound sense of peace, a tangible shift in the atmosphere, or a feeling of heightened awareness that is difficult to explain. Beyond personal testimony, some accounts point to unusual physical effects, such as cameras malfunctioning without cause or instruments behaving erratically. While these stories are anecdotal, their persistence across different cultures and continents is intriguing. To test this idea, practitioners sometimes use simple tools like dowsing rods, which are said to react to subtle energy flows, or more sophisticated devices like magnetometers that measure minute changes in the Earth's magnetic field. The goal is to find objective data for a force that is, by its nature, elusive. Mainstream science remains skeptical, citing a lack of reproducible evidence and the powerful influence of suggestion. Yet the core idea continues to captivate, for it offers a profound explanation for the global blueprint. If true, these monuments were not merely aligned to the stars, but were actively plugged into the Earth itself. They functioned as spiritual power plants designed to harness, amplify, and perhaps even balance the planet's own vital force. This transforms the ancient landscape into a single, interconnected system of sacred technology, a conscious project to nurture the very life of the world. Perhaps these ancient stones were the world's first global positioning system. The navigational hypothesis offers a compellingly practical explanation for this planetary alignment of monuments. Imagine an ancient mariner setting out across the vast, trackless expanse of the open ocean. With no compass or chart, survival depended on reading the subtle language of the natural world. Prominent sacred sites, carefully placed on high coastal cliffs or distinctive hills, would have served as unmissable landmarks. A traveler could line up the silhouette of one distant temple with the peak of another on the horizon, creating a reliable, straight-line path across treacherous terrain. This was a world where architecture became a signpost and a pyramid was a beacon visible for miles. The concept extends to the complex stone circles like Stonehenge. Some researchers propose these were not just calendars, but sophisticated astronomical computers. By observing how specific stars rose or set between keystones, a skilled observer could calculate their precise latitude and the time of year. This knowledge was power, the difference between a successful voyage and disappearing forever into the sea. This navigational purpose elegantly explains why so many of these sites are intervisible, meaning they can be seen from one another, and why they share such consistent alignment principles. They were nodes in a planet-spanning web of routes. This prehistoric GPS did not just guide people, it facilitated the flow of goods, the exchange of revolutionary ideas, and the mingling of human genes across continents. It was this very network of stone-guided paths that may have allowed the foundational knowledge of the global blueprint to spread in the first place, connecting distant cultures into a single, interactive community long before the invention of the magnetic compass. If monuments were the waypoints, then what was the original map they were all following? The monuments themselves might be only half the story. The other half lies within us, in the intricate wiring of our own minds. What if these ancient sites were not just aligned to the stars and the Earth, but were also precisely calibrated to interface with human consciousness? A growing body of research in fields like neurotheology is beginning to explore this very idea, examining how our brains respond to specific environments. The repetitive, sacred geometry of a temple, the specific resonant frequencies found in its chambers, and even the subtle energies reported at these locations could have a measurable effect on our neural activity. These places may have been designed as technology for the mind, engineered to gently shift awareness into states ideal for deep meditation, visionary insight, or shamanic journeying. Think of the hypogeum in Malta, where a chamber hums at a frequency that can alter brainwave patterns, or the long, narrow passage into Newgrange, which acts as a sound funnel to focus auditory perception. This was not accidental. It was a sophisticated understanding of psychoacoustics and environmental psychology, applied thousands of years ago. The global alignment, then, transforms from a map of astronomical observation into a guide to the planet's most potent spots for inner exploration. Our ancestors, it seems, were not merely architects of stone, but pioneers of consciousness. They were building external interfaces to access internal landscapes, creating a worldwide network of portals for human transformation. This suggests their greatest achievement was not the pyramid they left on the sand, but the potential they unlocked within the human spirit. The quest to decipher this planetary puzzle is accelerating, not slowing down. Every year, new discoveries emerge that challenge our most basic assumptions about the ancient world. A stunning example came with the application of muon tomography to the Great Pyramid of Giza. This advanced technique, which uses cosmic rays to peer deep inside solid stone, revealed the presence of large, hidden voids within the structure, spaces that had been completely unknown for thousands of years. This was not a finding from a new excavation, but from a new way of seeing, proving that even our most studied monuments still hold profound secrets. This is the new frontier of exploration, where technology acts as a key for locked doors we did not even know were there. The next great breakthroughs may not be found on land, but beneath the waves. Underwater archaeology is poised to search for submerged sites from the last ice age, when sea levels were dramatically lower. These sunken landscapes could hold the very missing links in the global network, the coastal settlements and trading hubs that connected one continent to another, now silent beneath the ocean. On another front, the quiet revolution in genetic science continues. Advanced DNA analysis of ancient remains is already revealing previously unknown chapters of human migration. Future studies may uncover genetic trails that trace the movement of specific knowledge bearers, the priest astronomers who could have carried the principles of the blueprint across vast distances. Perhaps the most powerful tool on the horizon is artificial intelligence. Imagine feeding the immense dataset of every known sacred site, with all their alignments, dimensions, and geological contexts, into a sophisticated learning machine. An AI could process this information free from human bias, detecting subtle geometric patterns and global correlations that are simply invisible to the human eye, potentially revealing the master algorithm behind the entire plan. The mystery is not a closed book, but an open invitation. It calls out to a new generation of explorers, scientists, and open-minded thinkers, asking them to bring their unique skills to this greatest of historical detective stories. The stones have spoken for millennia. Now, with the tools of the future, we are finally learning how to listen. We are left not with a final answer, but with a profound and humbling sense of wonder. The theory of a global blueprint, woven from celestial alignments and shared geometry, presents a picture of our ancient ancestors far more complex than we ever imagined. They emerge not as primitive cultures working in isolation, but as potential participants in a vast, interconnected project. The evidence remains a tapestry of compelling clues and contentious debates, a puzzle where the pieces fit just well enough to suggest a magnificent hidden image. Perhaps this knowledge was the legacy of a sophisticated source, now lost to the depths of time or the ocean. Maybe it was carried across impossible seas by intrepid explorers whose voyages are forgotten. Or it could point to a universal human intuition, a deep, shared connection to the cosmos that once guided our hands. Whatever its origin, the result is the same, a breathtaking legacy in stone that continues to challenge and captivate us. These silent sentinels, from the pyramids to the jungle temples, remind us of a timeless human impulse to look to the stars for guidance and to build our world as a reflection of the heavens. The greatest takeaway from this journey is not a single fact, but an open invitation. It is a call to see the ancient wonders with new eyes, to perceive the invisible lines connecting them across continents and centuries. The mystery endures not as a failure of understanding, but as a gift. The blueprint is etched into the very skin of our planet, waiting patiently for the day we finally learn to read its entire story. This journey across continents and centuries now becomes your own. If the hidden threads connecting ancient monuments have ignited a spark of wonder, you can help weave the next chapter of this story. The investigation does not end here. It continues with every curious mind that chooses to look closer. Begin by exploring the ancient sites in your own part of the world. Research their alignments, visit them if you can, and see if you can find a local ley line or a solstice marker that others may have overlooked. Your own observations could be the key that unlocks a new understanding. Share what you find in the comments below. Let's build